Hello, guys. Welcome back to a cheeky little special on the Trick Weight with Grey Gamer and myself, Mr. Trev. We haven't done one of these in a while because Star Trek's been very consistent, Grey, hasn't it? Like week on,
Yeah.
from Picard and Prodigy pretty much was before that as well. So we haven't had much of a chance to breathe. However, last episode was so good. Like literally the best I've certainly ever seen in Star Trek history. And I've still got a finale to go, which blows my mind. We saw the teaser trailer, which we couldn't talk about last time. They hadn't put it up yet.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that now briefly. It'll be way shorter, this video.
Mhm.
Just what we saw, our thoughts, and what we maybe think is going to happen in the finale, Grace. So, do you want to tell the people very briefly from the trailer clip we saw, because considering it is technically Gray's Corner, what happened in it, and we can maybe break it down a little bit, mate?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was a short trailer. I guess it gets tough to do a sneak peek trailer because you don't really want to tell people everything.
Yeah.
But apparently, it kind of picks up pretty much where the last one left off, last episode left off. And they're basically had got taken, as you saw the episode, they took the D out, which looked great. And this clip shows them all talking about what's going on at Earth. So apparently, they took off and flew straight to Earth, like you saw at the end of the other episode, a previous episode. So they're at Earth now, and then they're sitting there going like, "Uh-oh, what's going on?" Apparently, in the clip, it says that the armada that's now been taken off over by the Borg, apparently has eliminated all the Earth-based defenses, space-based defenses.
Yeah.
So they're down. They did say that the space stations or the space docks were holding them off
Yeah.
for now, which I was glad to see because you can't just like fold all of a sudden and you're like done.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of thought the space-based defenses would be a little stronger, but I do know the space stocks are powerful.
Solid.
Yeah, MFs. They're like really,
Yeah.
you ain't taking one of those down all that simply, even with an armada.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the defenses on them. I mean, you talk about like a phaser, maybe this big,
They're turrets. They're
this
literally turrets.
big.
They're turrets and
Yeah.
phaser strips and everything.
But at the same time, obviously, like they said in the clip, they're not going to be able to hold up forever.
Yeah.
Um, there's some other things they mentioned in there that they put out the all hail or Starfleet ships put up that could anyway put out the all hail and the commute, and they mentioned, it was kind of funny, they mentioned that normal commuter or consumer out of commuter, whatever you want to call it, civilians were
Yeah.
putting out the APB too, but they weren't answering, nobody was answering, which I want to see more of the episode because, well, let's roll it back a little bit and start back at the beginning. So you tell me what you think, but I thought the shots of the Enterprise D looked fabulous when it arrived. They show like an outside shot and they pan around and you see and I was just thinking to myself,
Yeah.
the old fat boy, as we call it, never looked so good.
Yes.
And I say that lovingly because it is, come on, it is a fat boy compared to the other ones, but that doesn't take any grandeur off of the Enterprise. The Enterprise is the Enterprise. The Enterprise is a character. The Enterprise could be the most important character. It's kind of like the Enterprise's ship is symbiotic with the crew that we know. One can't exist without the other.
It's the lead character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful seeing that. And now they have the advantage of being, you know, everything's like full 4K from the scratch and, and they get to do the model, properly or whatever you want to call it. Not that
Yeah.
it didn't look good in the series, not that it didn't look good in the remastering, but boy, this thing looks pretty.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
does. And this is a massive freaking ship. This is not a small ship. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
you know.
so like we'll, of course we'll break it down, but just to finish off that bit that Grace said there before we do break it down, they are literally they get they ping the Borg essentially in the solar system because we didn't know where they were, and Jack seemed to get there pretty quickly. It turns out they're in bloody Jupiter, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually hiding inside the big red spot that we always see there, which is kind of cool. It looks like it because they literally,
Yeah, because now that you mentioned it, when we saw the scenes of Jack
it looked like
sort
it.
of seeing like, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. There you go. They're probably hiding in there. Jean-Luc goes, right, get there, maximum warp. I mean, literally, that's maximum warp for a second or two and you're there because it's the same solar system.
Yeah.
And the Enterprise. As soon as thing is right, I thought we weren't going to see any Enterprise D shots in this. I thought they were saving it.
Yeah.
I thought use our Starship teases, but it hits warp, comes out of warp, and then for a couple of seconds, like nothing's there, and then bang, it's right in your camera, like right in your view.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, okay, that's how you make an entrance, Terry. And then like,
And then I just love these panning shots. They don't do
yeah,
that often enough
yeah,
because the panning shots are more effective than you think.
and they're
Because who wants to see
expensive.
just go this way, go that way, go this way, go
Yeah.
that way? I mean, come on, man. Just like
It's
you know.
they're expensive. Terry knows what we want because Terry is us. Well, maybe not exactly us, poor man, but he's similar to us. So he's given us what we want: the candy, the eye candy.
Yeah.
And Grace says there the shots are brilliant, and HD 4K. It's a lot better than it was before, and it looks stunning. And literally, then the camera pans from the back, and you see the Enterprise D just heading towards Jupiter.
Yeah. See the
big
look
red
great. And
eye.
you see the 1701D big as hell like that.
It's
Looks great.
It's so right. Okay, so we'll go to the start of the beginning of the trailer, then great, or the teaser trailer, and the first thing that they said that threw me off, that we're going to nitpick. I mean, I love it, but I'm going to nitpick because it's part of who we are. The first thing we see, which confuses me, was sending out a hail for help. Who's sending out the hail? The whole bloody fleet's been taken over, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's civilians. If civilians are doing it, I understand that because transport ships and whatnot are trying to get help and they're not linked in and they maybe don't know what's going on. The second thing I want to nitpick at and I'm curious about is Earth's defences are taken over already, but the space station is still there.
Yeah.
Right now that this is a famous space station. It's been there since the beginning of Star Trek folklore. It's been added to, which is fine. That's natural evolution. And I'm not nitpicking it. It's still standing because what a lot of people are not aware, and I think Gray and I are aware of this. These things are tanks. When Gray said they are solid, they are. They're supposed to design. They're designed to stand up for at least a little while against a fleet of ships. That's the whole point of them. So they've got some of the things I know they've got. They've got secondary shields, secondary shields. They've got a plate of armor. They've got armor on top of armor. They have got power sources, secondary power sources. They have got latest state-of-the-art sensors, communications. They have armaments of phaser turrets, phaser banks, pulse phasers, you name it. Any technology you've seen it's got. It'll probably have photon torpedoes, standard. I wouldn't be surprised if it would probably have quantums as well. So this thing, even if you get through the shields, is going to take a pounding for a while. I just see the size of this fleet, Gray. This fleet is huge. I mean, there's probably over 100 ships in it, probably a couple of hundred ships, just a quick guess. Some of them state-of-the-art ships, and it's still standing, even with what it's designed to be. It's far-fetched. I'm not complaining. I'm just thinking it's a bit much, mate. And what's your thoughts?
Well, I think the first part with the hailing, Starfleet hailing everybody to come help or whatever. I think that goes back to what you and I talked about in an episode or two previous, and we had said that every ship is supposed to gather for Frontier Day, but we both talked about how that could be a generalization
because it could take a year to get from one side of the galaxy to the other.
Exactly. So there's got to be, even if it's only, I don't know, 20% of the fleet or 20, right, or 25% of the fleet is still wherever.
Yeah.
They're out there. They're there. So they're sending out the hails, I guess, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Now, the question would be that, and maybe we'll see this in the episode. And remember, we're being very subjective because all we saw was a 1.5-minute clip.
And Terry's good at hiding things.
Right. So it's just fun for us to speculate because it's cool.
Yeah.
So if that's true and they're sending out hails, then you would think that means that, well, there's a lot of people that are part of the Federation, the Vulcans.
Yeah, that's true, mate. Yes.
Everybody else. And they would probably, as much as they could, come to the rescue. And they have not been through the whole assimilation thing. So they're not part of the Borg. They can't become part of the Borg. So I'm almost thinking that at some point it would seem like someone's got to come to the aid, whether it be the Vulcans or, Klingons or several others. Someone has to. especially the Klingons when you think about it, especially with Worf being involved,
Yep.
or whatever. So I don't see how you can't have some of these other planets send their forces over at some point. I mean, it's going to happen, somewhere.
Point, mate. Okay.
Um,
And the space dock. What's your thoughts on that?
well, the space dock. I mean, there's more than one space dock, so it's not like there's
Is
just
there
one.
though? We only see one, and it's the default one for Earth. There might be more, but did they say
I,
space stations or just one? Can't remember.
mm, that's a good question. I don't know if he's. I don't remember. I have to go back and look at the clip whether he used plural or singular.
Mm.
But I would think that there's more than one space dock. I mean, or slash space station. So in other words, you would have these massive stations and or docks that are spread around the planet, or
Mm.
because otherwise, why would the Borg be attacking just one space dock? Yeah, they want to kill Starfleet people. I get it. But then I would just say, well, forget the space dock. We'll just move away from it and just pay attention to taking over the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't do anything about it, supposedly.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that the space docks are spread apart at decent enough distances that you're going to have to deal with them, one way or the other.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether the Borg is sending part of the fleet off to other space stations and other space docks. And the reason I say that is because they're not going to show that really in these episodes because it'd be expensive.
Oh yeah.
So you just kind of like you got to have some what they call poetic license here and just kind of figure out that's kind of like what's happening. It's
Yeah.
almost like a book, right? You read a book and the book will go into more detail about what that situation is. You can't put it all on the screen.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
True.
So
True.
that's kind of what I'm thinking, generally speaking, is
Okay.
going on. But what we did get revealed in a way, I guess, is that when you first see that, you kind of like go, well, what are we going to do now? If we fight against all of the Starfleet ships, then we're going to be killing off all our friends and family, which is going to be really
I
difficult.
was going
That's
to
almost
talk
like
about that, Gray. Actually, yes. What do we do? Suppress them for a while, or actually try to take them out? Because many people could die and will die.
exactly, and they're taking over, and they want to take you out. So it's kind of like that's what I like about the writing because now you're in an extreme emotional
But
quandary here.
why is the space
You
dock
know,
not taking over? Why?
that's true. I maybe because I thought the fleet made more sense. You want the firepower
True.
of a fleet as opposed to a dock? But that's a good question. I
Yeah.
mean, but that's my
Terry,
thinking.
fix it in one line. Fix it in one line next
Right,
episode.
one line. But think about it, infiltrating a space dock like that to that extent, because the thing is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about taking like an entire city of Los Angeles or something and putting it up into space.
Yeah, they're huge. They're like skyscrapers of on
Right.
top skyscrapers.
So it would make sense to me, like, well, the Borg has to infiltrate. What's the easiest way? Infiltrate through the ships and work your way in, or try to go for a space dock. You ain't going for a space dock because you're gonna know right away.
Yeah. True.
Something's goofy. I mean I think that's a relative logic anyway.
Okay.
But anyway, so now that we know the Borg have to control their puppets, so to speak, because it's kind of like that's what they are,
Yeah.
because they're not full Borg. They have to be controlled from somewhere. So immediately Picard in the clip knows this and goes, "There's no way that these guys aren't following orders from a Borg somewhere." And as soon as he says that, Data's like right on it. He's like, "Right on it, Captain." And he figures out that
He pings
there's a
them. He
ship over
finds
by
them.
Jupiter.
Yep.
Now, I thought maybe we were going to see in the clip a little shot of the Borg ship somewhere, but we didn't
Well,
see that. So I guess that'll come later.
so Gray, you make. Well, here's a couple of things that I think are going to happen, and of course, your thoughts are welcome.
Mm.
Obviously, Fat Boy. I can't believe I called it that. That's what he calls it. We both love this
Lovingly,
starship.
lovingly.
Lovingly.
Yeah,
God.
let's just go Enterprise D. It's the Enterprise. We don't want to
She
make
never
fun of
looked
it.
so bold and big before, though. Yeah, Fat Boy herself.
Size matters, right? So
Yeah, well, this is it. This is why I don't have a starship. So this the Enterprise D doesn't stand a chance against the fleet, so they won't even bother trying taking them on. It goes without saying.
Okay.
So they're literally, as Riker said in the last episode, they're going to have to poke and prod, run away, hide, sneak attacks, whatever you need to do. So they're obviously seeing from a distance how big this armada is, and like, shit, we're not going to be able to do anything. And then obviously that's when Data picks up the signal from the Borg. They head there. They're hiding in there. I think it's just one cube that's left, and it's bashed up, man. I genuinely think there's that little left of them, and they've got no drones left. It's actually bare bones Borg, which is fascinating to see. They've never been so weak. And they've
Well,
got...
and I think it's more, and I don't know if we're going to find out as we go along, but it seems to sound more like a splinter group because it's hard for me to believe that this is all that's left of the Borg.
They get bashed up in Endgame. They get massively bashed up, mate.
I agree, but it's been like
virus.
30-something years. I mean, they're not, I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't have a problem either way. I just kind of think that this is more of a splinter group off
Not
from
again. Jurati done that. No, mate.
maybe.
No. Okay.
Oh, we'll see.
Yeah, no, of course. I think it's going to go one of two ways, or both, actually. First thing is, they can't take on that Armada of the D, so I reckon the Enterprise D can take on that Borg cube. I wouldn't say easily, because when they're both at full strength, your cube just pisses all over it. But it's not far from full strength, so I reckon the D not being at full strength either, it might be an even match, and that's capable of taking on a cube. However, they're going to obviously try and get in amongst Jack and the Borg Queen and find out what's going on here. Because they don't fully know what's going on with Jack yet. And we haven't seen Jack in the... Did we see Jack in the last episode? No. Yes. Is that when he got assimilated in the last episode? Yeah, he
last
did.
episode was just... Yeah, when he got the neck.
That was... I thought we would revisit him again by the end of the episode, but we're not. So we'll see him, obviously, in the finale, and then it'll be the showdown between the D and the Cube. Or, here's what I think will happen on top of that, Gray. I want your thoughts. The D can't take on the fleet, but if those emergency hails get out for help, and the Vulcans and the Klingons come, and there's combined fleets again, and the D is spearheading it, maybe they've got Jack back, but the link hasn't been broken because the Queen's maintaining it or whatever. They then take their allies with them, and they just go and smash the Borg the best they can without killing the crew on the other ships and whatnot. So, I mean, do you think any of that's plausible?
I mean, definitely. I mean, I would rather see that. I mean, obviously, if the writing is good, I'll accept anything. But yeah, if it was me, just like you, I would rather see that. I would like to see put up a good fight.
I want to see a fight with the D, please.
Excuse me.
Please.
D would put up a good fight, and then the cavalry finally does come, which is kind of funny because in the clip it was funny because when they said they put out all the hails. What is it? Data says it appears we're the only cavalry.
Yeah,
that's coming to the rescue. But anyway, when the cavalry arrives, I would assume they would. I can't see how they can't. Then I think it's kind of like you said. The deal put up a really good battle, and as it's getting really pounded and stuff. Finally, everybody else shows up. Or as much as they can find.
Yeah.
That's around. Which would be like, cool if the Voyager showed up and the Defiant and 1701A and
yeah, and then our initial one and our initial dream, if you want, would come alive because we kind of wanted that and we thought it might happen. It almost did. We got the D. That's something.
I'm happy with that if that's all that happens.
And to be fair, all the other starships are intact. They don't need the same kind of work that the D did. It was missing half its bloody ship, so.
Yeah. Now this would be the time if they were going to do it. I don't know if they are. This would be the time for Admiral Janeway to finally show up in a ship.
She's not going to, mate. I'm telling you. I'm calling it right now, which is pissing me off.
Yeah, I know.
Why do
I
that,
keep reading
Terry?
these little things about. I don't understand some of the articles that there's only been one or two articles, but they're all saying like, well, Kate Mulgrew can't show up because she has a contract binding her to Prodigy or something, and I'm going like, what could that be? I know I've read this now. I've read this.
Stupid.
Something about some kind of contractual something or other that would prevent her from showing up like in something else. So that's why they just name drop. And I'm going like, what kind of a dopey contract is that? So I'm kind of still hoping that that's not true. And she does show up in the end, riding roughshod on the Voyager A or something, which would be cool.
One of the Voyagers or the original one, because why not? Picard's got his D again, so why not, mate?
Here's the reason why.
Or seven on it.
True.
Captain 7.
Here's the reason why I don't think we're going to see what we would like to see. you won't see the 1701A or anything at the Fleet Museum enter in because they've already been dry docked now. So there's no weapons. They can just fly under maybe impulse to move them around or something for the museum, and the insides are the same, but everything else is going to have to have been stripped off of it.
I
No torpedoes,
know, I
no
know.
fuel, no dilithium. Well, except for barest minimum. So bummer is, I don't think that's going to happen. Now, if it does, I'm not going to argue. That'd be cool as shit, but I don't think so. However, Janeway and the Voyager A is totally possible because we know it exists.
Or the B.
So it's no doubt about it.
The
Yeah.
B.
So
B
they're
was
they're
B.
there,
A and B exist, by the way, and they're both out at the
right?
same time, which I've never heard of a starship
Yeah.
before.
I want to. I'm not sure if I understand that. That's another little canon
It's technically
gimmicks.
possible. You just go, I want to bring in the B before the A is retired.
I don't know. I mean,
Possible.
eh,
Just
if the
why?
A is ready, if the A is ready to be decommissioned,
We're getting
I
close.
guess so. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, because you don't see, and I'll just. It doesn't mean I have to correlate it to today, but if I do correlate it to today, you're not going to see two USS Enterprise carriers or two USS New Jersey carriers or two S. You know what I'm saying? Today, it's one gets decommissioned, boom, it's done, and then you get the new one.
Yeah, I know we're basing it
You know?
on that. I know.
But I still think this would be the perfect point where Janeway shows up. It would be. I am really praying for it because I think that'd be
So
great.
she could be in the A getting ready for Prodigy season 2, right? And she could even
Mhm.
have, if she turned up with her little minions in tow, like the live action versions of them, or their CG or something. I don't care. That would just be me, Cloud Cuckoo Land. Or she rocks up in the. I know I'm talking out my backside here. I don't care. She rocks
Or
up
fantasizes. Who cares?
in the Enterprise G, which is just getting ready. The Enterprise G,
And
and
we see it.
and
Oh, that would be too much to
she's on
hope for,
board.
dude.
She's on board, man.
That would be too much to hope
And
for. Don't
Seven
get me
rocks up in the
excited about that.
Voyager. Seven gets outside and's pushing the Voyager, but anything we need to do.
Come on.
Cisco rocks up in the Defiant or something like, or
Yeah,
Worf
well,
goes over. Worf goes over.
now
to
we're
the
really reaching.
Yeah,
It would
listen,
be
guys,
great.
we're not on LSD. We're like this all the time without drugs. We
That's
don't need
right.
drugs.
Oh, I'll give you. All right, I got a new one for you. How about this? This would be
Right.
cool. Again, I don't know if this would happen, but at the end of Prodigy, for everybody that's been watching that, okay, they did mention that the protostar, which is still around, was going to be kept so that they can start producing more protostars. So it's kind of the, whatever, the prototype ship, and then they're going to go from there.
Yeah.
Well, what's to say, depending on the timeline here, what's to say that they haven't created one or two more protostars already, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's two or three of them, and they all show up at the Borg battle.
They should.
That would be
They should.
that would be cool. Yeah, that would
Why
be kind
not?
of cool because now we're talking about some new technology here.
Yeah.
Protostars are running around, and you got the D right there,
Well,
and then a couple others start showing up.
it's faster. It's not going to have necessarily more armaments when it's faster, but I mean, I'd like to
That's what
see
you
these
need.
ships.
You need speedy ships to pick off important components, and you need
And
bigger ships to.
great. Let's not forget the Enterprise D is not at full strength. Far from it. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, it's designed to have 1,000 people on it. It was designed
Right.
to have families on it, so that more people would commit to Starfleet because you're away for years at a time. And then they
Sure.
scrapped that after because they realised it was a crap idea, and I have to agree. They should be military ships, kinda. That's kind of, or science versions of them.
Mhm.
This is a big ass ship that would need more than the bridge crew to man it, even skeleton wise. You need more than that, even for because of the ship of its size and how old it is. But obviously, Geordi caveats that with drones, which, while it's disconnected Battlestar Galactica esque from the fleet, it needs a lot of internal people to run
Yeah.
it. So these drones with a bit of modern technology are doing it, like the little bots, the little things that you've seen repairing hulls. They are probably be doing a lot of the work elsewhere so that they can have the best of both worlds, Grace, if that makes sense. Like the
Mhm.
older Starship disconnected, but some of the modern advantages of technology
Mhm.
getting pushed in there. So then they should be able to hold a fight for a while. And I know we're not going to see this. This breaks my heart a little bit, but I know why. That's the only internal view we're going to see of the Enterprise D.
Yeah,
Uh,
because there's no reason to
it's too
see
expensive.
anything
I would
else.
love engineering. I would kill for it because Geordie should be down there. Geordie starts up on the bridge early on in
Hmm.
his TNG career, but he then moves more down to engineering later on. I'd
No,
love to see
there's
that, but
not
he
that.
won't be there.
Mm,
Too
we'll
expensive
see.
for one scene, mate.
I agree.
They
I
spent
agree.
3 days on the TNG bridge. It's the Enterprise D bridge. I remember it was one of the Levar Burton interviews. They spent 3 days for the scenes they filmed actually, and that was
Mm.
value. They wouldn't build any other set.
Yeah, I agree. I
You
agree,
know,
and that makes sense, and I can accept that because you can't get everything, or it'll be too expensive.
exactly.
Um, there is some precedent though for the ships being partially automated or whatever. I remember it was funny. I was watching a clip recently from, I believe it was Star Trek 3, and that's when they stole the Enterprise out of the space dock to go, see if they can save Spock.
Mm.
And in that was the crew of the 1701, and they all jump on board, 1701A to be exact. So they all jump on board and they're on the bridge, and then what was it? I forgot who made the comment, but they said the ship is fully automated. We're ready to go.
Yes.
So obviously it can be, at least to a certain degree. But I also agree with, like you said, even if that's the case, you can't go forever without more people manning. Like if something happens in the engine room, you need people to do stuff, and
Yeah.
automation is not going to be able to do it all. I
Yeah.
do agree that the drones make sense and they could probably do something, but you still don't. You still got to have the general direction of a Geordie or a Scotty or somebody,
Yeah. Yeah.
to do it.
Mhm.
So all that's going to be interesting in this final episode because again, we keep on saying this all the time. They we every week we say, "Gosh, I hope the writers know what they're doing. I hope the writers don't paint themselves into a corner. I hope the writers can get themselves out of this." And every freaking week, the writers get at themselves out of it, and all logically.
Usually with a
And
line or
that's
two
been
of dialogue. That's it.
what whatever it is, whatever it takes, and that's been the thing that you and I and many other fans have been dying for. And I want to make one other comment. This is a good comment and maybe a knock too, not on Star Trek, but if you read that article you sent me, and I saw it before too, that Picard has now or now is number 9 out of all the streaming
Yes, that's
new
massive.
programming.
Of all of them,
Okay,
all of them.
out of everything that's on
That's
the air, that's
huge.
streaming, and that was back when it was episode 4, because
Yep.
apparently according to the article, the Nielsen's can't be released right away. They tend to be held up for like a month or so or whatever.
Yep.
So we won't even know how it's been performing a second time for another however many weeks. But the
Massive.
point is that if episode 4 got it to number 9, I don't know if people out there realize this, but that is such a gigantic number because previous to this, all the other Star Trek series, all the Kurtzman crap as they call it, uh, basically we're in. Let's face it, they're close to the basement. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no way they could crawl up to top 20, let alone break the 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just not going to happen. I think the only time this has ever happened somewhat like this was when Discovery first came out because everybody's going like, "Oh, new Trek," and then it appeared way up there,
Mhm.
and then immediately dropped right back down, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
So that's a testament to what. And now I'm going to give my knock and my scream out to some of these people that were involved or may still be involved at Kurtzman crap, and that is the fact that the fans have been screaming for stuff like this for years.
Yeah.
They've been screaming for it even as Discovery and other things were going constantly, 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 and they kept on like, "Oh, we know what's best," and they don't listen to the fans. All of a sudden, the fans finally cracked that outer shell with the people that are not Kurtzman, and
Akiva
and
Goldsman's
and
Strange New
yeah,
Worlds.
and look, as I always say, people that like Star Trek and even science fiction in general, but especially Star Trek, look, we're not bragging, but we're smarter than the average bear. We're not stupid, and so when we sit there and just go like, look, we know what works. Now, remember when season 2 of Discovery came out, and it certainly wasn't a stellar season, but when you saw the Enterprise come back and you saw Captain Pike on it, immediately all the fans reacted all in unison and said, "You need to make this a series." These people are too good. It's too strong. We love the Enterprise. We want to see more of Pike, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they listened and they put out the series. And until Picard season 3 came out, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is ruled. As
Yeah.
far as ratings go and and the popularity.
Yep.
So okay, now they listen to us. Boom, Strange New Worlds, great, doing great, love the show. And then they listen to us again, and they put people like Metalis in charge, and then they do a season 3 that should have been season 1
Yeah.
of Picard, and they should have done from the very beginning. So hello, we are not idiots. Thank God someone finally listened. It only took 10
Well,
freaking years.
that's why we'll probably get Legacy or something similar at some point because they know they've got a gold mine on their hands, Paramount. So
Yeah.
you know,
And, and sometimes you sit there and think about this, and you go like, now these are supposed to be people that are really smart about this stuff, and they know how to make money, and they know what the people want, and they blah blah blah, and yet they put out drivel for 10 years, like,
great.
and not listen to us.
Your rants are classic. I have to say, I wanted to see where this one went because I was a little bit confused what this had to do with the teaser trailer. But this is what happens when we get animated and we go off in
Mhm.
tangents. We're just passionate Trekkies. It happens, and that's something in all seriousness that we might try and do more specials as we go along because I do want to try and ramp things up a bit. Gray and I were having a conversation about that, and even if it's just 10, 20-minute length episodes on the state of the current Trek universe and where it's going to go. And do we get Star Trek Legacy? Do we get Section 31? Blah, 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 blah. That's stuff we can all talk about because it's Talking Head videos. So,
Sure.
great. I appreciate your passion as always, mate, and your opinion. We're going to wrap up there. Longer than usual for a video like this, but way shorter than our usual videos. So it's about norm for us, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really looking forward to the finale. It's going to be a long episode review. We're going to absolutely tear it down. That's the format we do. I may do shorter formats on top of this for future seasons of other things, but for the moment, this is the standard. But yeah, thank you again. Don't forget though that we are on the podcasting platforms as well, whatever one you listen to in audio format.
Right.
And you can find the Trekway on the Twitters as well at the Trekway. And Mr. Gray here as well does a lot of cool entertainment stuff that I co-host with him. And that's Gray's Green Room. And we're doing an episode of that on Wednesday as well. You can find him on the YouTubes, the podcasts, and the Twitters as well at Gray's Green Room. And forget, last but not least, our friend that we do a lot of gaming podcasts with, Extreme PC UK. You can get him on the YouTubes as well, and also on the podcast. So we'll put all that below. So thank you. We will probably see you hopefully again Thursday, if not Friday after, for the finale review. But until then, Gray, thanks for coming along and do your thing, mate.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Bye, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.